Hello everyone and welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. We are back in our FPS tutorial series, and we're going to be continuing on with the code we were working on last time. Someone in the Discord asked if we could add in a item grab animation. So I've been scouring the internet, and eventually I found on Mixamo something that was close enough. Close enough to make it look realistic. Now, if I find the animation, I will show you all what I'm talking about. It is called the Spellcast Anim. Now, when you see this, you'll notice that it's nothing like what we were doing previously in this animation. So if we're just walking, we weren't holding anything. I think in the actual Mixamo, they were holding a sword. But obviously our character is not holding a sword. So we need to basically get this left arm animation and nothing else. So we're going to be looking at two things today. We're going to be looking at exposing one small section of animation. We're also going to be doing our aim offset today in this episode, just because it makes the whole thing look a lot nicer than it did before. So if you're going to be following along with the Mixamo one, get your spellcast animation. Now, I've inverted it so it's left-handed, because if we're going to be holding a gun with our right hand, we're not going to be grabbing anything if we've got a gun in that hand. So it makes more sense to use the left hand to grab things or interact with things throughout this process. I'm trying to think ahead so we don't have to backtrack on any of this stuff, but we're going to be using our left hand. So right-click on it. I've obviously done this already where I've been testing. But right-click, go up to Create, and create an Anim montage. You should have a blue line at the bottom to show that it's an Anim montage. Open that up, and this is what we have. Now, it's not going to do anything different than what obviously the animation plays, so we won't see any results until we actually do the code. But we're going to set this up first. So if you go to the right-hand side here where it says Anim Slot Manager, click on that, and you should see a list of animations. Now, I've obviously got mine set up already, but you should have the default slot as already, but you shouldn't have anything else. So what you want to do is click on Add Slot. It'll come up with this little text box. Type in whatever you want yours to be called. I called mine upper body and left arm. I added 2. It's very important that you do 2 and not just 1. So do upper body and left arm, and you should be able to follow along with this very well. Now for this animation, I've gone for the left arm. You don't need to do anything with the upper body. Just click on, this should say default slot. Come down, click on the slot name, and make sure you set it to the left arm here. Once you've set that to left arm, you should be good to go. Save and close it down. So what we want to do next is I'm going to go to do the actual using it. So find where we've done our interact input. Come along to where our is valid is. Pull off from this hit actor and put in interface. And if you scroll to the bottom, I believe there should be does implement interface. This is a very handy node where it will basically only do what you want it to do if it uses this interface, which for us is going to be our interact BPI. And then you want to do the usual, get a branch and plug that in. Now, off the true, we want it to play Anim montage, or play montage. That's the one. Play montage. Now, typically you do it on the completed, so once that action's finished, but we kind of want this to happen as we're doing our grab. So that should be fine off the top pin. So that just means that it'll run this, but then carry on running the rest of the code. Whereas if you do it on completed, it won't run this until this has finished. It's up to you what you decide to do, but I decided for myself that I would do it on the get self. Oh, I see. We just need the mesh. I'm being silly. Get the mesh. Plug that into the skeletal mesh component, and then for the montage, we're going to play that grab Anim montage. And from this, you should now actually be able to get it to play, I believe, as long as it's not messing up too much. Let's see. It won't do it yet because we haven't actually done the code. That's fine. So that's that. Then we want to come over to our test subject Michael Anim BP, or whatever you called yours. And we've got a few things we need to do. I understand why it didn't play. It's because I haven't actually got the slot set up in the code yet, and that's why it didn't play. So there is a reason for that. But first things first, we need to set up now. We're going to do two things at once here. The first thing you want to do is come to the event graph. This is more for the aim offset. So we need to get control rotation, and we also need to get actor rotation, like so. There we go. And then we want to make a delta rotator, like that, and put the control rotation into A and the actor rotation into B, and then we're going to split this pin so we can get the individual values. And these are all coming off the Y, so we need to do a minus first, and this needs to come off of this, and 360 needs to go in the top. So minus the Y pitch from 360. We also need to do a multiply of -1, so we get the inverted figure. And we also need to do one final check to see if it's greater than 180. This will all make sense. From this, we're going to do a select float, and that's how it's all going to be set up. So it's checking to see whether we need to take 360 with the minus of the Y, or if we need to just invert this Y figure, depending on whether it's greater than 180 or not. If it's greater than 180, we pick A. If it's anything else, we pick -1, the times -1. And then because we're going to have 3 different rotators, we need to divide this by 3. Again, this will make sense once we get to the other side. We're going to create a new variable, which obviously I've already got mine, which is aim rotator. Set that. And then from this, we need to make rotator, which is at the bottom there. And then we're just going to plug this into the X. And that should be good. Compile that, and that should provide us with our aim rotation for when we are doing our aim offset. So from now, we can go into the anim graph. Obviously, this is all we had prior to this. Break that locomotion connection. And what we're going to do is we are going to cache this pose. So new save cache pose. Call this your lower body. Like so. Because we're going to need to know what our lower body is doing at any one point when we're also doing the other stuff. So we're going to use that lower body cache, and we're going to slot. We're going to get the default slot, default slot, but we're going to change that. This one needs to be our upper body. So get the default upper body at the top right here, and then we're going to cache that pose. And we're going to set this to upper body. And then we're going to use the upper body cache. And we're going to get another default slot, which we're going to set to the left arm. And then finally, we're going to cache that left arm pose and do left. We'll call it left arm. There we go. So now we've got those. We need to actually do something with them. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to do this bit second. I'm going to do the aim offset next, I think, because that will all form into that one. Just trust the process, I guess. We're going to get the we're going to use the upper body cache for this one. This is going to basically decide how we go up and down, like looking up and down. That's going to decide that rotation. The first thing we need to do is get a local to component. And then we're going to transform form modify bone. Now, in the details panel, if you go to translation, we can tick off the exposed as pin, so we don't see it, because we only need to see our rotation. So you can do that as well for the scale. We will need the alpha, so don't hide that. But just get rid of scale and translation. We just need the rotation. And for the rotation mode, we're going to add to the existing. So make sure to click add to existing for that one. And then this is the important thing. You need to pick your bones. Now, most Unreal mannequins, they do spine 01, spine 02, spine 03. For our test subject Michael, we have spine 1, and spine 2. So copy this, so you have 3 of them, like so, and connect them all up together. And the rotation we're going to use is this aim rotator here. Plug those into all 3, like so. And I have created a float value that is the alpha float. For this one, plug them all in and set the default to 1. Now they are already defaulted to 1, but it just means you can change them all under this one float if you ever wanted to increase or decrease that alpha. Just makes it a bit easier to do. And for the other bones, don't forget to change those as well to spine 1 and spine 2. And make sure that they are all set to add to existing. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. Once you've done that, we can then do a component to local to get that figure back. And then we need to do a blend. So if we use lower body, get the lower body cache that we created, and do a blend. And then this goes into the B. So, and then also plug the alpha into that bottom one there. And then we're going to cache this pose. Cache pose. And we'll call that one aim offset. We need to do one more of these. And that is going to be our left arm. So get the left arm cache. We're going to just basically copy these 3 here. Excuse me. Change this spline bone to left shoulder and change the second one to left arm. There we go. And then we can do the same thing here. Grab this and do that there. We do need to change that lower body cache. We need to get the upper body cache because that's what we want it to run alongside. Now we can also take the same alpha as well and plug that in there. And then we need to cache this pose as our, we'll call it left arm offset, like so. We can then come down to our out pose, and we need to obviously just finish everything up in one tiny lovely little package, and it should be good to go. So what we need is we need our lower body cache. We'll just take it from there. We also need our aim offset cache, and then what we're going to do is layer blend per bone. It's there. If I zoom in a little bit, and we can plug that into the 0. And the weight for this one I've left at 1. But what we need to do is determine what this layer blend per bone is branching from. So if you go into the blend mode, you have your blend mode, you have layer setup. Then it gives us automatically 1 layer, and then we click on the branch filters and we're going to add 1. Open that up so we can see what it is, and it just needs to know the bone name. Well, we're going to go for spline. No, we're not. We're going to go for spine. Just make sure it's named correctly, and that should be good. And blend depth, I'm going to make about 5 for this one. And then just make sure to put on the mesh space rotation blend and change override to normalize by weight. And we can compile that one. then need to do one more. Plug that into the top. We're going to get our left arm offset, and we'll plug that into there. And for this one, again, we need to change this to left shoulder. I believe worked the best for me, and I'm going to make that. I'm going to change that depth possibly to. I'll leave it as 5 for now. It's fine. And the last thing we need to do is just get our default slot. And that is so that if we have a full body Anim montage we want to play, it'll still play it regardless of all of this kind of extra stuff. And if we compile now, he should go back into his idle stage. And you can see everything's lit up now, so that it's doing everything. If you want to add in other ones, so you could do right arm as well. You just have to create a new slot in the Anim montage, and then cache that pose. I would do it the same way as you've done the left arm. Just make it that the upper body, then you get slot right arm, then cache that as right arm, and then do the same thing. But just make sure that when you blend it with the right shoulder, not the left shoulder. And that should then do your right arm as well. But it all depends on how in depth you want to make everything. I mean, you could do legs as well if you wanted to. In this instance, again, you would just find what the thigh was and then blend that instead. And you don't need to necessarily do the cache pose for your legs, because that doesn't make sense. You'd only do this for the again for the right arm, and then you would just do your legs here and blend the leg. No aim offset for your leg. You don't need an aim offset for your legs. So don't start going and making these sort of transform bones for legs and things, because it just wouldn't make sense. But you could do some awesome things, like if you wanted a kick button, like you can see in some games, you could do that quite easily using this method. Okay, so let's give it a test and see where we're at. So if I press E now, it's because I'm not hitting an item, that's why. There you go, he's grabbing it. There you go, you can see him grabbing it, and now if I T-pose this, you can see he is still grabbing. It's just, if you're looking directly up, you're hardly going to be grabbing stuff, but you can see him looking up and down, and he will grab it. His arm will go up with you. And of course, it won't work now if you're not hitting anything that doesn't belong to that interact interface. If I remove that, we'll just try it without that, just so you can see the effect without that. Does implement interface in the way, and you should hopefully see that if he hits a wall, he is still attempting to grab it. I think the one thing I am going to change is this to a 1.5 maybe. Blend it out a little bit more, see if it does a bit of a better grab. Oh, there you go. That's a lot better. There you go. He's reaching out a little bit further, and you can actually see it on screen a little bit better. Like, if you look too far up, it does make sense that you can't see his hand as well, but it's nice to know that it is a little bit more distinct. So yeah, that's what it looks like without the does implement interface. But yeah, we have now got a grab animation, and this will work with everything that like holds that interface. So if we interact with these, it will also put his hand out. You could change this. You could change the type of interact BP they use, and then maybe do a wave instead. So you like waves at them to show that he's talking to them. But yeah, that's our aim offset done. And the good thing with this is that now that we've got the aim offset working, we won't have to worry about it when we come to do our weapons. They should automatically stay aligned with our cursor, which is really, really good. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, leave a little like, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It's free to do. You can always change your mind, and I'll see you in the next episode. Much love. Take care. Bye.